I 1000% agree with you on what it takes to be an entrepreneur. What is really remarkable that I feel that it's interesting that a lot of people don't understand, like you don't lose until you quit. If you can just, take those bumps and bruises and figure out a way just to take that next step, regardless if you're going to take 2 steps back a week from, today, you really, truly, genuinely only fail is when you give up. And that's something I've never been as a quitter. I will go to the grave before I quit something. And that's really why I've been successful at everything I've done.
Allan has started and grown several multi-million-dollar businesses. His mission is to help you do the same. Welcome to the Business Growth Pod, building the future one entrepreneur at a time.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Business Growth Pod. I'm your host, Allan Draper. Glad you're with us today. I'm excited for this recording. I'd like to welcome Rick Elmore. Rick's an entrepreneur, sales, and marketing expert. And check this out. He's the founder and CEO of Simply Noted, which this is interesting. It's a company that streamlines the creation and distribution of genuine handwritten notes. Rick developed a proprietary technology that puts an actual pen, like an ink, to paper to scale handwritten communication, helping businesses of all industries scale this unique marketing platform and stand out from their competition and build meaningful relationships, which I think is the most important part with clients, customers, and employees. Welcome to the show, Rick. Glad to have you.
Thanks so much for having me today, Allan. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so that's cool. So I think we'll get into that. Like, I want to hear a little bit about your background. You played professional football, which I think is really interesting. I'm a big sports enthusiast. I think there are so many life lessons that can be learned from sports. My oldest is 10 and he's starting to really get into sports, big into baseball right now. And tell me a little bit about your path in football. I know you played, it was at the University of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I went to ASU. I got my law degree from ASU. So we'll figure out how to make
week. Rivalry week. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about like your path in athletics and how that's helped you.
That's great. You know what? First off, I 100% owe everything, my success, my life to athletics. It helped me and developed me as a person and gave me a vehicle to go further than I ever could without it. The transferable skills you develop in sports are like nothing else. Working with the team, working through the bumps, the bruises, the grind, the dedication, the commitment, perseverance. Again, it's just all these things that are just ingrained into you for, the decades that you play as a young kid, or everything that you can take to anything else that you do in this world. And you're just so much better prepared as an adult, in my opinion, going through all that as a kid. So I was very fortunate. Was lucky to have a really good career in high school, was recruited to play at University of Arizona, and then was lucky enough to have a really good career there as well. I was in the NFL for 3 years. Thought I was going to play a lot longer, like every athlete's career, it comes to an end sooner or later, but then got into corporate medical device sales. So what I'm doing today has nothing to do with what I've done in the past. I've started a robotics software industrial automation company with an athletics, sales, and marketing background. But I could not have done what I've done today without that background, because at the end of the day, business is all about relationships, sales, and marketing, and developing a company. You got to have those skills in order for it to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. I've been talking to my wife recently. I played football up until high school. And I've been talking to her about, allowing our boys to play tackle, right? Here in Arizona, they have flag leagues.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have those where I grew up. And she's opposed to it because of injuries, which I get it to some extent. I just love this concept. One of my favorite things about football, especially for youth, is you literally get knocked on your butt.
Yep.
And you have no other option except for to get up and play the next
And it
play.
hurts. It hurts when you're a little kid, Yeah.
And so I think that's being an entrepreneur in a nutshell. It's you get knocked on your butt, metaphorically speaking, and you have no other options except to just get up again. The problem is a lot of entrepreneurs don't do that. They say, you know what? I've been knocked down 10 times today. That was my last time. And the real key to entrepreneurship that I have found is that the most successful entrepreneurs are the ones that they're like, hey, I'm gonna stand up again. I'm gonna get off my butt, and I'm maybe not going to take that angle, or maybe like I'm gonna have my head on a swivel a little more, or I'm gonna position myself differently. And it sounds like that's what you've done, through your career. You've pivoted, you've found kind of this unique niche. Tell me about a little bit of the why behind Simply Noted and what you guys are trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, first I 1000% agree with you on what it takes to be an entrepreneur. What is really remarkable that I feel that it's interesting that a lot of people don't understand, like you don't lose until you quit. If you can just, take those bumps and bruises and figure out a way just to take that next step, regardless if you're going to take 2 steps back a week from, today, you really, truly, genuinely only fail is when you give up. And that's something I've never been as a quitter. I will go to the grave before I quit something. And that's really why I've been successful at everything I've done. Football, it took me like 3 years. Like I did it because my older brother played it and I was an angry kid. I needed like an outlet. And that first couple of years, I was a big kid too, so I had to play up. So I was playing with kids that were older than me. So I really did get knocked down a lot. But yeah, just not giving up. That's something that I think a lot of people could, it's a skill you can develop, but being an athlete, that's something that's just ingrained into you. But Simply Noted was an idea that formulated when I was at business school. I was doing my MBA back in 2017. I was, pretty successful corporate medical device rep. My first year, I was at Stryker. I was rookie of the year, or branch MVP. And then for 5 years straight, I was either top 1% or top 5 rep in the entire company. Again, it was just a lot of the same stuff that, I used from being that made me successful in athletics, just really hard work, perseverance, not giving up, don't take no for an answer, do better than improve on what you did yesterday, learn from your mistakes, right? And I just incorporated that into that medical world. But I had like an itch I couldn't scratch. I felt like there was something bigger for me. So when I went back and did my MBA, I was in a marketing class and I had a professor that said that handwritten notes had a 99% open rate after, going through a marketing lecture, saying everything else is super nominal. Like email marketing was like single digits and direct mail was low, and then cold calling and all this stuff was super marginal. But then when he ended it with that statement, I was like, man, that is a no-brainer. Like, number one, they're rare. Like, I grew up in a generation, I'm sure you did too, where you wrote notes to your friends in school, right? Text messaging was still pretty early on. Like when I was 16, I'm 34. That was still somewhat new, right? So handwritten notes still had like a thing to it. When I got recruited to play college football, if a coach sent me a handwritten note, it meant way more, right? When's the last time you screenshotted a text message and printed it out and hung it up on your refrigerator? Never. Or an email, right? So, being in sales and marketing, I was like, man, if I can figure out a way to do this, if I can get in front of my client 99 out of 100 times, it's going to make me more successful. So long story short, I had a cohort classmate of mine and myself. We kind of worked with the mailing house here locally in Phoenix, flew some technology in from South America, China, basically a pen plotter. I don't have one in here anymore, but I ended up sending out some handwritten notes to some like prospective clients that never worked with me, had a massive response rate, sent out almost 500. The doctors were like, hey, Rick, like, who I've never talked to, never been able to meet with, like, hey, Rick, thanks for that note. That's really cool. Like, no one has ever like done that. That's like cool of you, but like, hey, this sounds cool. Let's have a lunch and go over, your guys' product. In 1 month, or it was about 6 weeks, I got $280,000 in sales. It was $28,000 in commission. And my monthly quota was like 50 grand. My whole company was going nuts. They're like, Rick, what are you doing? My VP of sales was like, tell everybody how to do it. Teach us. I told him what I was doing. He was like, I wish you wouldn't tell me that's how you were doing it, because like I told him like this is like my side hustle. But anyways, from that moment on, I had that entrepreneurial seizure moment. I was like, it worked for me. It can work for everybody else. Like this is, a thing, and really just started working on building the business.
That's cool. So I invested in a company called Contado Marketing, and it has kind of this similar like philosophy where with Contado, it's gift giving. So my partner, he runs the show, but he basically creates like very creative and proprietary gifts. So it's like we had somebody that was a huge University of Michigan fan. And so he framed like this article with like this headline of a really big Michigan win that he knew that this guy was actually at. He was at that game. But it's the same idea is open rate and response. And it's very, very expensive. It's for people that are looking for C-level contacts.
Yeah.
He requires a signature. And so he can tell.
Certified mail. Yep.
Yeah, it's usually within 15 seconds after the signature. So just basically 15 seconds to a minute, just long enough for them to actually open the box before, the business or whatever that sent the box gets a call. Yeah. Yeah. So it's very similar. And I think, going back to Simply Noted, it's, there's so much noise. I get bombarded. I don't even know how many emails, texts, messages on like the different social platforms I get a day. I just get solicited to like an incredible amount extent. Yeah. And so it's cool to have this platform where you can just separate yourself a little bit.
Yeah. What you're just saying, like, this is a digital world, right? There's tons of noise. The average person with a cell phone receives over 4,000 notifications a month, right? That's text, email, phone calls, social push notifications. The average person receives less than 5 handwritten notes a year. So the mailbox is completely empty. What was old is new again. In the 90s, that's where people competed, before email was in the mailbox, right? They needed to get inside your mailbox to get to you. So yeah, I feel like this is a product that people are craving. It's just, they're so inundated and overwhelmed with the digital products nowadays. So when they get something like this, it's so impactful and it's memorable, and the shelf life is, weeks instead of a half a second, right? So I think there's going to be a resurgence for this type of product. I've been saying it, resurgence with vengeance, because people are going to just come back in droves and want to do something like this. And we're just trying to make it as easy as possible, regardless if it's to send one, right? Or send, tens of thousands. It's just like, scaling an email. Like you put in your mailing list, you type in your message, you put in the little mail merge tags, first name, company, product, whatever, and it's completely customizable at scale. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think we've done a pretty good job over it in the last 4 years. And the technology that we're releasing now it's really exciting.
That's awesome. I founded a digital marketing agency called Lizard SEM, and we just completed our first birthday, right? Our first year anniversary. Mm-hmm. And my partner there, Matt, who has he been on the show before, Hunter? He sent like this care package to like everybody, and he sent one to me, but it had a handwritten card. And my wife opened like the gift box or whatever, and the only thing she said about it was, "Hey, I read the card that he wrote you, and I can tell he really likes you." And I hadn't even read it yet. And so then I came to my office and this is right before I hit the record button. This is like, 45 minutes ago that this is happening. But I read the thank you card that he wrote, and it like hit differently, right? It's heartfelt, like it feels super personable. And I was thinking, like, of all the ways to get my attention, like you could send me, and I get sent like lots of different stuff just from my vendors a lot of times, or banks or whatever. And it's different when it's something that I can't go buy. Mm-hmm. I can't go buy that. There's no amount of money that, I can pay for somebody to write me a note. So I really think that you're onto something. So you guys have been doing this for 4 years.
Yep.
Where are you now? Where are you going to be in a decade? Like, what's the plan? What's Simply Noted? What's the future hold?
Yeah, so we started back January 2019. Fast forward until now, we have triple-digit revenue growth each year. We have no loans, no investors. We've been profitable since month one. What that means is if we didn't have the money, we didn't spend it. We've reinvested basically all the profits back into the business to scale the business. My mindset there was if we ever needed to get equity at some day, I'd rather put all the sweat equity and all the hurt in the early years and try to get it as big as possible before I just, early on, here's my idea, hey, take half my business, right? So 11 full-time employees now. 7 are in office every day. Everybody else are kind of like contractors or they're full time, but they're just out of office. Yeah, our capacity is about 10 to 15,000 handwritten notes a day. When I first started this business, it was really with the idea of built to sell, which is why we ended up building our own handwriting robot. It was extremely important to have our own handwriting robot. Number one, with cost to scale, quality, control of the technology, having IP patents, all those things that makes your business more valuable. But really, our handwriting technology, just because I've tried everything else out there, it really is a step above anything else that's on the market today. So I'm really excited about it. But yeah, I don't know where we'll be in 10 years. It's really hard to envision that far out, but I did build this to sell it. I would like to see, somebody come in and share the passion and the vision to grow it and see how far we can either take it together or have them, buy us and retain us and help it grow it. But I don't know. I see Simply Noted being an engagement platform, helping people automate and scale a physical, tangible, personal touch. In a digital world, there's really isn't anything else out there like this. If you think in terms of automation, everything can be automated now. People don't think a genuine, authentic handwritten note can be automated. Like it's just, so I feel like we're still ahead of the curve and the genuineness of the product is still there, so, just like anything, I think there's a timeline, a time horizon for this, but I think there's still a good, healthy 5 to 10 years before this becomes super mainstream and people are burnt out with mail again.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm involved in a business that you really have to educate the customer about. It's not intuitive. It's a little confusing as to exactly what it is. We have some patents on it, which is the good side. And this is my first foray into kind of a new type of business, new technology, which is good because we're able to protect some of that technology. It's bad when you're trying to market and distribute it because it's like, okay, we have to tell people what this is, how it benefits their life. When somebody goes to McDonald's, heaven forbid, but I guess it happens. And they're like, okay, I know what this hamburger is. Like, I know what I'm going to get for better or worse. Have you found that there's this struggle in helping people understand? I mean, the idea is simple enough. I feel like there's still some, hey, we have to help them see the value and how it will benefit their lives.
So as you were saying that, the pain was coming into me because I feel your pain because we have a new product, a new idea, a new product, new service, right? New technology. It's like, it's not like when I was at, Stryker selling spine implants to spine doctors for their spine patients. Like they were trained on it. They knew about it. Like it was just, it was an easier sell. I think there's a good thing and a bad thing about being in this boat. Because if you push and you're a visionary and you're able to get that company, off the ground faster than anybody else, like you're going to be in a better spot. Because once you start having success and people see your success, other competitors are going to start entering the market. What we try to do is like tell people like, hey, like just send a thank you card. But then we try to tell them you can automate it. But then when we talked about automation, like their brain kind of just glosses over. They're like, what? And then the hard thing too, we still live in a digital world. So, digital marketers, they want to track everything. And it's like, if I can't track the open, I can't track the click through and I can't track the click, to the payment, like we can't see the ROI. And it's like, what the ROI of a thank you note? Like you don't want to just, I'm talking to a luxury brand right now. Their average selling price is $7,000 and they want to talk ROI on a $3 handwritten note. I'm like ripping my skin off. I'm like, it's $7,000. Like, I get it, it's just like, but why don't you just say thank you, right? The law of reciprocity, right? Just saying thank you. You're going to increase lifetime value. There's an American Express study out right now saying that it's more like towards like business accounts, but if like you can retain 5% of like your business accounts, your year-over-year revenue is going to increase 25 to 95%. Like, which makes sense, right? Like, you're not filling the leaky bucket, right? You're increasing the whatever. Yeah, customer retention, right? It makes sense. So what we're trying to do is just try to show people like, here's our platform, here's our product. We can automate it or we can scale it. This is how we automate it, either through software, Zapier, API, webhook, or just scale it. It's just like an email list, but we need a mailing address list. And most companies, have mailing addresses. Like if they don't, we know how to get them. So at the very beginning, like, hey, do you find value in the service? Great. We'll show you how to use it. Like we're still there because it is so new. But it's really nice when we, can talk to somebody who understands technology, like APIs, integrations. It's like a breath of fresh air. We're like, oh, this is nice. Like you understand how to plug and play. It's just,
Yeah.
but it is rare. But that is, that's the necessary evil of trying to, trek your own path, right? Like start something new. Like there's a reason it's hard and there's the people haven't done it before.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because the digital world has shown us the give first mentality. The people that are the best on social media or with digital marketing, we're always giving first and then asking, right?
The freemium stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Gary Vee, long time ago, it's been over a decade, I think, wrote the book Jab, 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 Right Hook or whatever. And the idea was you give, then you go for the close. And I'm trying to remember his name, but there was an Arizona State professor that wrote a book. I think it's called Persuasion. I think it was Robert Cialdi. Don't mark my word on that. We'll put it in the show notes. But he talked about this idea of reciprocity that you brought up. The idea is that when you give something to somebody, however small, that the average person that's not a psychopath feels this indebtedness to you. And when they do that, they feel like they have to pay you back. Even with something as small as a handwritten note, I can totally see this happening. And it's not always in terms of like monetary value, which isn't what they want really. They just want to call, right? They just want to. And the reason why I understand this is because of Contado. One of our methods is we use our gift packages to send to clients that we want. So then all we have to say is when they call us after we send it, we're like, you know how you just called me? That's exactly what we want your potential clients to do with you. And so we show them that it works by using it on them.
Yep. We do the same thing. We'll always send a handwritten note out to a prospect of lists. And at the end, I'll always put PS, this was written by a machine. And that's the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like, what? Like, what? Because I think it's handwritten. But yeah, that is the world we lived in. We have created the monster. I do get those emails all the time like, hey, is there a freemium? Can you give me this for free? I'm just like, in digital world, it makes sense because it's infinitely scalable, right?
Yeah.
But when there's a product and a service, right, you have people, right, like doing the service for you in a product, which has a tangible cost, right? But people literally expect that. And it literally like, that's another thing that like, did you think before you sent this email? Like, do you understand? Yeah. Like, even though these are like machines doing it, like there are still people running the machines and there's still paper and postage and
yeah, you're like, hey, as opposed to like asking me via email, why don't you write me a letter and ask me, incur those tangible costs and then we'll talk, right? Like,
I know it's just incredible. Yeah,
that's interesting.
But we have created the monster. You did say that earlier on. Like, I agree 100%. We are in that world now where it's give before someone gives you something. But like you said, our businesses kind of fit right into that mold.
Right, 100%. Were you a solo entrepreneur? Did you start this on your own?
Yeah, if I can tell anybody, right, there's two things about being an entrepreneur. If you go by yourself, you can go fast, right? But if you want to go far, you have to go together. And that's where we're at now. The first 4 years, it's just been a complete bullet train, roller coaster, crazy ride. We've had over, I think, 1,100% like increase in revenue since year one. So it's just like we're growing nonstop, but now we're hitting problems that take, real, true, crazy expertise, people who have a career, built around solving those problems. Scale a robotics company, it's, you need CTO, COOs, you need, industrial automation, like professional, like people in there. So that's where we're at now. Yeah, I started this out of my house, like literally out of my office with a 6-month-old kid. I was working full-time still. And then just moved up. We went into a 900 square foot space and a 1,800 square foot space. Now we're at a 3,000 square foot space. So it's just, we've scaled as we had to mitigate risk. Again, we are completely self-funded and we've tried to do this without, any outside help.
Yeah, it's interesting to just kind of watch the evolution of a company. And I really like your mentality about kind of proving the value first. And you've hit the nail on the head. I'm developing a software right now. And I went through this phase where I was like, okay, should I put a few bucks together in the beginning or should I bootstrap it? because I'm going to get a much better valuation when I'm like post revenue, which we're at now, right? We have quite a few users now, still early, still losing money. But that's the mentality that goes into it. It's like, this is our baby. Like, I don't want somebody to come in and just beat me up because I need a few bucks. Like, I'm going to show them the value. And the best way to do that is with clients, people that are paying for it. But it's also tough. It's tough to fill because the risk is much higher.
Yeah, I think in order to scale a company and to be an early, beginning days CEO, you have to be so passionate about the idea and believe in it wholeheartedly, or else it's going to be really hard to get it off, right? Especially when you're making those investments with your money and your time. And that's what this has been for us for sure. And it's really the only way to scale a business. I've talked to it. It just grinds my gears, I guess, talking to some like VCs. I talked to them about our journey and we're a young company, profitable, blah blah blah. And they're like, yeah, but can you be $1 billion company? I'm just like, why don't we focus on getting to 50 million first? And then they're like, yeah, I want to talk to the guy who has no sales, no track record, right? No business even started yet, but he's going to sell them like this crazy unicorn. We're going to solve every problem, $1 trillion idea. And they're like, and I literally think of this Rick and Morty theme or meme. You know what? I'm in. Like, that's where I want to be. And they'll write them a check. I'm just like, the suckers, there's a reason why 99% of your investments don't work. It's just like, but like, you have to find those guys who are so committed, so loyal, so driven, will not fail, have a background for success, right? And I'd rather have that guy on my team where I know, hey, you may turn my $1 million into $10 million versus that crazy guy who's probably going to fail, who's going to promise me 100x return. But anyways, yeah, you really have to be so committed in the early days for anything to work. Doesn't matter if it's a relationship, your business. I think those core characteristics, are all the same.
Yeah, it's true. And as we're wrapping up here, I own quite a few businesses. I have 17 business partners. And when I'm looking to partner with somebody, the number one characteristic that I'm looking for, and this has changed over the years, but where I am today, the number one characteristic I'm looking for is somebody that is going to wake up in the morning after a really tough day and just say, it's a new day, we try again. Because if you have that mentality with a business partner, you won't fail. And you really try to hedge against the highs and the lows. It's somebody that's like, hey, we just landed this huge client. Cool. Like, what's next? Right. Yeah. And we've been able to find quite a bit of success, which is, and it's like that with relationships. It's like we like to, watch these movies, these Hollywood movies where it's like, oh, they just have the perfect relationship. It just doesn't exist, right? The overnight success doesn't exist. It's 10, 15, 20 years in the making, but we like to romanticize it a little bit. And, the lessons that you learn from entrepreneurship affect every aspect of your life. And, it's just something that the formal education just can't take the place of,
No, and that's another thing. You won't learn how to start a business until you start a business.
Exactly.
So just start it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people get that analysis paralysis, right? Like, you're not going to solve a problem until you just start walking into it and you look around like, oh, okay, see that. Oh, that. Okay. And then we come back. Let me put a plan together. Oh, that plan didn't work. Let me retry it. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of great ideas that never come to fruition because the person who had it just doesn't know how to start it.
Exactly.
You just got to get going, and to scale it, you just, like you said, got to wake up. Doesn't matter if it's rain or shine, good or bad. You just got to, you got to have your metrics that you got to hit each day. If it's calls, if it's activities. I've always been an activities equals results guy. And I know at some point I got to get away from that, but I'm always just trying to scale activity. Right.
Yeah.
And that's my sales and marketing mindset. Yeah. I need my COO and CTO mindset, someone to take those things off my plate, because, those are different beasts for sure.
100%. I've shared this story a couple times before, but one time I was looking for like fleet and liability insurance. This is like 8 years ago. And I talked with this lady that's, getting me a quote, and she was asking me some questions that I didn't know the answer to. And she said, wait, you don't know the answer to that? I'm like, no, I don't. I was like 1.5 years, 2 years into my first business, already had a multi-million-dollar company. And she's like, you're not supposed to start a business till you know everything about it.
Oh my gosh.
And
Okay.
I laughed. I seriously laughed, and I wasn't trying to offend her or anything. I started laughing, and I'm like, if you did that, you would never start the business because you don't, you never know everything.
Says the person who's probably never started a business.
Exactly. And I think I threw in something like that. I can tell you've never been in business for yourself, but that's 100% right. Sometimes you just got to put yourself out there. So
you just got to have the courage. That's it. It takes a lot of courage, especially in those early years. For sure.
Amen. Well, Rick, this has been fantastic. Where can people reach out to learn more about Simply Noted, learn more about all the great things that you're doing over there, and how Simply Noted can help their businesses?
Yeah, so just go to simplynoted.com, just how it's spelled. And you can go to our business page. We actually do a really nice job of sending a free sample kit. We send a really big 9x13, folio with tons of information on it. I think it cost us like $20, but we'll send it to you for you just to literally see it and touch it and feel it and get excited about it, because it is an awesome product. Or you can just go to LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn basically all day. It's just Rick Elmore, Elmore. I try to do basically daily updates of just stuff that's happening with our business, if it's podcasts or interviews or new articles or support articles, we'll share it there as well. But yeah, those are the two best places to reach me for sure.
Well, my pleasure, Rick. Rooting for you from the sidelines. Wish you nothing but success, and excited to watch you on your journey, my man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.